when you talk about hermetic stress, one of the examples you gave was cold exposure. And I think a mindset that has become popularized, perhaps through David Goggins or other people within his circle, but being comfortable, being uncomfortable has become a big, I guess, endeavor, especially of mine. I like to take cold showers every single day, and fortunately for 4 or 5 months out of the year, they get exceptionally cold. And if for nothing else during the winter, I'm perfectly comfortable standing outside when it's 15 degrees out. That's nice for me. And so when it comes to cold exposure or other forms of stress that help us prepare for hardships in the future, what else have you done, through intermittent fasting or through other areas of your life that kind of help prepare you mentally and physiologically for some of those stressors?
Yeah, it's like my friend Keith, the founder of Paleo Effects, talks about, Keith Norris. He talks about being harder to kill. And that's the idea that we used to be harder to kill. We were far more resilient because we could deal with more stressors. And now we make ourselves so comfortable all the time that we're always in just a perpetual state of ease.
Yeah.
Even though we're distracted and stressed in different ways that we shouldn't be, given that there's very little actual stressors in our life. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
But we are thermically controlled, for example, from 68 to 72 degrees all day, every day.
Yeah.
And we eat all day, every day with snacks and meals, and food availability is everywhere you turn with Grubhub and Uber Eats and vending machines and convenience stores and pantries and restaurants. And we never have to go more than 3 hours without eating.
Right.
And so we don't know what these stressors are anymore. And we've become very easy to kill. We don't have that resilience. And so, yes, doing things like cold exposure through cold plunges or cold showers, doing hot exposure with saunas and red light therapy, and then contrasting, going back and forth between the two, which is creating a greater delta or hormetic stress. Going longer without eating, having time restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, it's called, or even doing extended fasts. Like I just finished a 90-hour fast this past week. So doing these things can help build your resilience. You have to be mindful of your stress bucket, your allostatic load. If you have other stresses going on in your life, you just got a divorce and you just lost your job, and you have COVID-19 and all these other things.
Right.
Maybe adding extended fasting and doing cold plunges is not going to be a good idea. It's very similar to the idea of being around COVID-19 if you're immunocompromised. Doesn't make sense.
Right.
But I actually like the idea with my immune system is taking my immune system to the gym. Some food falls on the floor, I'm going to eat it. If someone's coughing or sneezing, I'm not running the other way if I'm feeling good.
Right.
It's taking the immune system to the gym. That's building more resilience. We're more resilient to these pathogens, just like animals are that, run around outside and drink lake water and eat dog poop and, whatever. Like, they're tough to kill.
Yeah.
And we are using sanitizers and isolating ourselves and have recycled or filtered air. And, we stand on artificial flooring and artificial walls with artificial light, looking at artificial lives on artificial screens. We're breathing artificial air, and we're eating artificial food, and we're wondering why we're not feeling naturally good, because there's nothing natural in our lives anymore.
Yeah, it's starting to, the way you described it, it's starting to sound somewhat Orwellian. That makes perfect and complete sense. Previously when we had spoken, you had talked about agitation creating adaptation. I mean, is that kind of the idea? What you just kind of described? The more we can do to expose ourselves to, you can call them hardships, you can call them bugs, you can call them whatever you want. But I mean, our bodies will learn to adapt to the I guess, the things that we generally think of as trying to hurt us, trying to harm us. But the more that we can really put our bodies through the ringer, through the test, the more we're able to adapt and overcome.
Yeah, exactly. But that mindset is going to allow for more.
Right.
Like, for example, when I did a cold plunge recently in an ice bath, I was at a biohacking retreat where we also did plant medicine, but we were doing those ice baths as well. And I was in there for 15, 20 minutes talking to my friend Keith that I was just alluding to,
Yeah.
just chatting. And I forgot all about being in there. And then I watched the next guy get in, who's an entrepreneur that's extremely well built, that's much younger, that's just, fit, looks like a tough guy, looks like he could kick your ass up and down the street. And he gets in and he's like, and screaming and just rocking back and forth and yelling. And I was like, wow, like it just like brought it all center to me. Like, I'm like, okay, so this is really about the mindset going in. I actually was looking forward to doing this. I was looking forward to sitting in there. And, after about a minute, I feel like a warmth come over my body and I feel a relaxation hit me. Like there is a little bit of a sympathetic nervous system response initially. But after that, like you have a kind of a parasympathetic like wave or chill come over your body, no pun intended.
Right.
And you do feel relaxed if you let yourself. But I mean, part of it is mindset. And I was looking forward to it and I felt relaxed and I felt conversational. And it was a mental hurdle for this other person that hadn't really done these before.
Right.
So that's a big part of this too. And, trying to find ways to make yourself uncomfortable on a consistent basis. And that can be so many things, like, because as we get older, we have what's called crystallized intelligence, where we get smarter and smarter because our box gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
We get better and better at finding that same way to work and learning all the little shortcuts, and we can do it on autopilot. And that way we get smarter and smarter. But we get less smart, or dumb, if you will, at fluid intelligence, learning new tasks. It's not as easy to do that because those are challenges. And these two ideas are almost counter to each other, so like it's a challenge to take on a new instrument, a new way to work, to put the belt the opposite way through, to put the shoes on the opposite way, or
right.
Whatever it is from what you've typically done, consistently done with your crystallized intelligence. And so again, just finding ways to challenge yourself consistently will keep you more sharp, will keep you more open-minded, will allow for greater resilience. And what your mind does, your body does better at. And what your body does better at, your mind does better at. So if you are good at doing cold plunges and hot saunas, you'll be more resilient to losing your job, to going through that divorce or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you get better with affirmations and gratitude and prayer and meditation, you'll be better at dealing with those physical stressors, like working out, like cold plunges and things like that.
Absolutely.
So it works both ways. And it's just finding ways to make yourself uncomfortable at times in the right way to allow for growth.
The Mosaic Life podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the full show notes at themosaiclifepodcast.com and sign up for the Circle newsletter for exclusive access to podcast content.